We warned them, the galactic empire had never known war. For centuries, they expanded peacefully, adding new planets and species to their vast domain through diplomacy or gentle persuasion. Their fleets were massive and intimidating, but they had never been used for combat. The Empire had always assumed that its size and power were enough to keep order in the galaxy. That assumption was about to change. Admiral Theron stood on the bridge of his flagship, Invictus, staring at the blue and green planet on the view screen. Earth. The humans had refused every diplomatic overture, ignored every warning, and now the Empire's patience had run out. Theron's orders were clear: subdue the humans and make them join the Empire, willingly or not. "They've sent a response, Admiral," said his communications officer. Theron raised an eyebrow. The humans had been silent until now. He gestured for the message to be played. A single word appeared on the screen, glowing in bold galactic standard, RUN. The bridge fell silent. Some of the officers exchanged nervous glances. Theron laughed, breaking the tension. "They're bluffing," he said. "Prepare the fleet for orbital entry. Let's remind them who they're dealing with." The fleet moved into position, massive ships casting shadows over Earth's surface. It was a show of power meant to intimidate the humans into surrendering. Instead, the humans acted. Without warning, the first human attack came. Swarms of small, fast ships erupted from Earth's atmosphere, weaving through the Empire's fleet with impossible precision. They carried weapons that glowed with an eerie blue light, cutting through Imperial hulls like they were paper. Admiral Theron's confidence wavered as reports flooded in. "They've breached the Eternal Dawn. Multiple hull breaches on the Celestial Spear. Shields failing on half the fleet." "How is this possible?" Theron demanded. "Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy." The answer came as more human ships appeared, emerging from hidden bases on Earth's moon. Their technology was beyond anything the Empire had encountered. Worse, the humans were using tactics the Empire had never trained for: chaotic, unpredictable, and brutally efficient. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for a moment like this. Earth had endured countless wars, learning and adapting with every conflict. While the Empire enjoyed centuries of peace, humanity had become masters of survival and warfare. A hologram flickered to life on the Invictus's bridge. A human woman in a dark uniform stood tall, her expression cold and unyielding. "This is Admiral Zara Blackthorne of the Earth Defense Fleet," she said. Her voice was calm, but her words carried a weight that made Theron's stomach sink. "You were warned. You should have run." Theron clenched his fists. "Earth will fall." "We have the numbers and the firepower to." "You have numbers," Zara interrupted, "but you don't have experience. You've never fought a real war." "We have." As she spoke, the humans launched their next strike. A massive energy pulse swept through the fleet, disabling Imperial shields and weapons. The human ships moved in for the kill, targeting engines and command centers with precision strikes. "Admiral," cried an officer, "our losses are catastrophic. We need to retreat." Theron stared at the chaos on the view screen. His once mighty fleet was being torn apart by an enemy he had underestimated. Swallowing his pride, he gave the order to withdraw. The surviving Imperial ships limped away, leaving behind wreckage and stunned silence. Humanity had won the first battle. The Empire's fleet retreated. Earth sent a final message, broadcast across all Imperial channels. It was Zara Blackthorne's voice again, but this time, there was no anger, only cold certainty. "You've seen what we can do. Remember this day, and remember our warning: run. If you return, we won't be so merciful." The message spread quickly through the Empire, shaking its citizens and leaders to their core. For the first time in centuries, the Empire realized it was not invincible. Back on the Invictus, Admiral Theron sat in his chair, staring at the reports of casualties and damage. His pride had led him to underestimate the humans, and it had cost him dearly. "They warned us," he muttered to himself, "and we didn't listen." In the days that followed, the Empire's leaders debated what to do next. Some called for retaliation, but others, wiser and more cautious, argued that provoking the humans further would be a mistake. Humanity had made its stance clear. They would not bow, and they were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. For now, the Empire chose to heed the warning. They ran. But in the quiet corners of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Humanity had revealed its strength, and many wondered what they would do next. Would they stay on Earth, content to defend their home, or would they take the fight to the stars? One thing was certain: the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The warning in space in the far edge of Galactic Empire territory, a lone Imperial scout ship drifted through the void. Its mission was simple: explore uncharted sectors and report back any findings. Commander Silas, a seasoned officer, sat in the command chair, his reptilian eyes fixed on the screen. "Unidentified signal detected," said his navigation officer. The signal was faint but persistent, coming from an ancient-looking beacon floating in the blackness of space. "Bring it up," Silas ordered. The beacon's signal was translated into galactic standard. A single word echoed through the speakers, deep and chilling: "Run." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Silas leaned forward, his scales shimmering under the pale light of the ship's console. "Run?" he repeated, his voice skeptical. "From what?" "Scan for signs of life or danger." The scans returned nothing unusual, just a beacon, its origin unknown. Silas dismissed the message as some old remnant of a forgotten civilization. He ordered the ship to continue its mission, leaving the eerie warning behind. But the Empire had noticed the signal. Weeks later, an Imperial fleet was dispatched to investigate. At its head was Admiral Corin, a veteran leader with an unshakable belief in the Empire's supremacy. When Corin was briefed about the beacon and its strange message, he laughed. "A simple warning meant to scare us? Pathetic. We are the Galactic Empire. Nothing can challenge us." The fleet moved closer to the system where the beacon was found. As they entered its outer boundaries, strange anomalies began to appear. Ships reported brief power failures, navigational glitches, and unusual readings from their sensors. "Some kind of interference," said Corin's science officer. "It might be a natural phenomenon." "Or a trap," Corin growled. "Stay on alert." Soon, they reached the beacon's coordinates. But instead of finding a derelict world or ruins, they encountered something unexpected. A dense field of energy surrounded the system ahead, pulsating like a living heartbeat. Corin ordered a small squadron to approach. As the ships entered the field, their signals vanished. Moments later, bright flashes of light erupted within the anomaly, and the squadron was gone. "What happened?" Corin barked. "Unknown, sir," said his tactical officer. "It's as if they were consumed." Before they could investigate further, the energy field began to shift. Out of its depths came a fleet of sleek, angular ships. They were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered, smaller than Imperial vessels, but brimming with power. A holographic transmission lit up Corin's bridge. A human figure appeared wearing a dark uniform and a stern expression. "This is Admiral Kane of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human said. His voice was calm, but carried an edge that sent a chill through the Imperial crew. "You have entered restricted space. You were warned." Corin's scales darkened in anger. "Warned? By that useless beacon? Do you know who you're speaking to? We are the Galactic Empire. You will stand down or be destroyed." Admiral Kane's expression didn't change. "We've heard of your empire. Big, peaceful, unchallenged. But you've made a mistake. You've never fought a war." Corin opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, the human ships moved. They struck with precision and speed, their weapons slicing through Imperial shields like they weren't there. The Empire's fleet was thrown into chaos. "These tactics, they're wild," Corin shouted, watching helplessly as his ships were picked apart. The humans fought like predators, targeting engines and command centers, rendering ships useless without total destruction. It wasn't just their technology that terrified Corin, it was their ruthlessness. Within minutes, half the Imperial fleet was disabled or destroyed. Corin's flagship took a direct hit, and systems began to fail. "Sir, we need to retreat." His second-in-command pleaded. Corin hesitated. Retreat was a humiliation the Empire had never faced, but he had no choice. Order the fleet to fall back. Now. As the surviving ships fled, Admiral Kane's voice rang out again, transmitted to every Imperial vessel. You were warned not to come. Remember this lesson: humans are not prey. If you return, you'll face worse. The fleet limped back to Imperial space, battered and broken. Corrin reported the defeat to the Empire's High Council, but they struggled to believe him. The idea that a single planet could repel the might of the Empire was unthinkable. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane watched as the last Imperial ship disappeared into hyperspace. His officers cheered, but Kane's expression remained serious. They'll be back, he said. Next time, they'll bring more. But so will we. The humans had sent their warning and proven they could defend themselves. The galaxy would soon learn a simple truth: humanity was no ordinary species. Humans are not prey. The Galactic Empire was known for its dominance. For centuries, it had expanded across the stars, absorbing countless species into its fold. Most worlds surrendered without resistance, their people awed by the Empire's massive fleets and advanced technology. To the Empire, conquering planets was no more difficult than collecting rare artifacts. When their scouts discovered Earth, they assumed it would be the same. Admiral Lorik, a proud and overconfident commander, was assigned to lead the conquest. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, Solar Wrath, as his fleet orbited Earth. Below them, the planet looked calm and unassuming. Humans, Lorik said with disdain. Primitive, isolated, and unprepared. This will be over quickly. He sent a standard demand for surrender. The response arrived within minutes. It wasn't a lengthy negotiation or a plea for mercy. It was one word: no. Lorik laughed, his sharp fangs glinting under the ship's lights. Brave but foolish. Prepare the fleet for an assault. Let's teach them what happens to those who defy the Empire. The fleet descended toward Earth, their massive ships blotting out the sun. Imperial soldiers prepared to land, expecting no more than token resistance. But as they entered Earth's atmosphere, the first surprise came. Human anti-aircraft systems activated, unleashing swarms of guided missiles. The Empire's ships, used to planetary defenses that were outdated or ineffective, were caught off guard. Explosions lit up the skies as the first wave of invaders fell. What is this? Lorik shouted as alarms blared across the bridge. Sir, they're weapons. They're more advanced than our intelligence suggested, a technician stammered. Impossible, Lorik growled. Send in the ground forces. Crush them. On the surface, Imperial troops landed in heavily armored carriers, their weapons gleaming with alien precision. They expected to face frightened civilians or disorganized militias. Instead, they encountered highly trained human soldiers armed with deadly weapons. The humans fought like predators. They used guerrilla tactics, ambushing the invaders in dense forests, urban ruins, and narrow valleys. Imperial forces, used to straightforward battles, were unprepared for the chaos. Lieutenant Sarah Morgan led a squad of human fighters in one of the first major skirmishes. As an Imperial walker stomped through a city street, she and her team used EMP grenades to disable it, then finished it off with rockets. The explosion sent debris flying, but Sarah didn't flinch. Target neutralized, she said, her voice calm. Move to the next position. Keep them guessing. Back in orbit, Lorik watched in disbelief as reports poured in. His ground forces were being overrun. His ships were being forced to retreat from their positions by human counterattacks. Sir, we've never seen a species fight like this, said one of his officers. Their tactics are vicious. Lorik spat. They're savages. They don't stand a chance against the Empire. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. These savages weren't acting out of desperation. They were organized, prepared, and relentless. The final blow came when the humans launched their own fleet into space. Smaller than the Imperial ships but faster and more agile, they swarmed the Solar Wrath and its escorts. Human pilots, skilled and fearless, exploited every weakness in the Empire's formations. On board the Solar Wrath, Lorik paced the bridge. How are they doing this? He demanded. They've been fighting each other for centuries, an officer said grimly. They've turned war into an art. The battle ended with the Imperial fleet in ruins. Lorik, humbled and furious, ordered a retreat. His flagship barely escaped, limping back to Imperial space with the remnants of his once mighty armada. As the surviving ships fled, humanity sent a final transmission, broadcast to all Imperial channels. Lieutenant Sarah Morgan appeared on screen, her face calm but her eyes blazing with defiance. "To the Galactic Empire," she said, her voice steady. "You thought we were easy prey. You thought we'd kneel to your power. But now you know the truth. Humans are not prey. If you come back, we'll show you what true predators look like." The message spread quickly through the Empire, causing fear and confusion. Never before had a species defeated the Empire so decisively. On Earth, celebrations erupted. But for Sarah and her comrades, the fight was far from over. She stood on a hill overlooking the city, watching as human engineers began repairing damaged ships and building new ones. "They'll be back," one of her squad members said. Sarah nodded. "And we'll be ready. Next time, they won't be the hunters. We will." The galaxy had underestimated humanity. The Empire's defeat was not just a victory for Earth, it was a warning to anyone who thought humanity was weak. Humans weren't just survivors, they were warriors. And now, the galaxy knew Earth's final warning: the Galactic Empire had never considered Earth a threat. It was a small, isolated planet on the edge of the galaxy, home to a species the Empire regarded as primitive. The Emperor saw humanity as a resource, a planet full of workers and materials waiting to be added to the Empire's vast machine. When Earth refused their invitation to join, the Empire didn't take it seriously. No one ever refused the Empire. Admiral Orc was sent with a fleet of 200 ships to make Earth submit. His orders were simple: conquer the planet without unnecessary destruction. Orc stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominion, as his fleet arrived near Earth. "Prepare the communication relay," Orc commanded. "Let's see if these humans are ready to reconsider." A human voice responded almost immediately. It was steady and calm, with no trace of fear. "This is Admiral Cassie Lee of Earth's Defense Command," the voice said. "You are trespassing in our space. Leave now, or we will defend ourselves." Orc chuckled, his scales rippling with amusement. "How amusing! They think they can threaten the Empire." He leaned toward the communicator. "Admiral Lee, this is your final chance. Surrender, or we will take your planet by force." There was a brief pause before Cassie responded. "You've been warned. Don't make us show you why." Oric's grin faded. He ordered his fleet to advance. As the first ships moved toward Earth, alarms blared across the bridge. "Admiral!" "Multiple energy spikes detected," shouted an officer. Before Orc could respond, Earth's defense systems activated. Massive orbital cannons hidden on the moon and in Earth's orbit fired beams of energy that ripped through Imperial shields like paper. Entire ships disintegrated before they could react. Orc shouted, "They can't have this level of technology." As the fleet tried to regroup, Earth's warships emerged from hidden bases on the moon. They were sleek and heavily armed, with advanced energy weapons that outmatched anything the Empire had. The Imperial fleet attempted to counterattack, but the human ships were too fast, too coordinated. Earth's pilots used hit-and-run tactics, striking weak points in the Empire's formations and retreating before they could be caught. Orc watched in growing horror as his fleet was decimated. "This wasn't in the reports," he growled. "Where did they get this power?" On Earth, Admiral Lee stood in a command room surrounded by holographic displays. Her officers worked efficiently, tracking enemy movements and issuing orders. "They're disorganized," said her second-in-command. "They're used to intimidation, not real resistance." "Good," Cassie replied. "Keep the pressure on them. Show them what happens when they underestimate us." The humans' greatest weapon was yet to be revealed. Deep in Earth's orbit, hidden within an asteroid field, lay the Leviathan, a colossal AI-controlled warship capable of wiping out entire fleets. It had been humanity's secret project for decades, built as a deterrent against any galactic threat. Cassie gave the order, and the Leviathan activated. The asteroid field seemed to come alive as the massive ship emerged, its engines glowing with an eerie blue light. When the Leviathan fired its main weapon, a beam of pure energy tore through the Imperial fleet, destroying dozens of ships in a single blast. The surviving Imperial vessels scrambled to retreat, their once proud formation in ruins. On the Dominion, Orcs' confidence was shattered. He watched helplessly as his fleet was annihilated. "Admiral, we have to retreat," his tactical officer shouted. Oric clenched his fists. Retreat was unthinkable, but there was no other option. Order all ships to fall back. As the remnants of the Imperial fleet fled, Earth transmitted a final message. Admiral Lee's face appeared on every Imperial screen. "This is Earth's final warning," she said, her voice steady and firm. "You've seen what we can do. Leave us in peace, or next time, we won't be so merciful. Tell your Emperor, humanity is not to be trifled with." The message spread quickly through the Empire. It was the first time an enemy had not only resisted but humiliated the Empire's forces. On the Imperial capital, the Emperor himself watched the footage in silence, his advisors murmuring nervously around him. "What do we do?" one of them asked. The Emperor didn't answer. He couldn't. On Earth, Admiral Lee stood before her crew, the room filled with cheers. But her expression remained serious. "This was just the beginning," she said. "They'll be back, stronger and angrier. We need to be ready." Humanity had proven its strength, but the galaxy was vast, and the Empire was not the only threat. Still, one thing was certain: Earth would not fall easily. For the first time in history, the galaxy had a new power to fear.